evaluation report. So I will hand you over to Mrs. Gilbert.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. So obviously the Rugby World Cup 2011 was a major event for the country and also for our district last year. Whenever you do something new or interesting or expensive, it's always wise to do a review and see how well it all went. So that's what we've done here. I guess the big highlights were that the Host Coordination Committee for Rugby World Cup, the local committee, prepared and planned for the event here to a very high standard. That's probably attributable to a great deal of the quality of our partnerships. But it might be more appropriate if Councillor Downard wanted to comment on this, given his role in that event.
Yes, well, of course, Councillor Downard was the chairman of the Rugby World Cup committee, and it did do a really, really good job. So, fine, by all means, Councillor Downard.
Thanks. Well, all I can say is thank God the All Blacks won. Indicated all the hard work that went into it, and it wasn't just the Rugby World Cup committee that put a lot of work into it. There was a lot of work that got put into it when I first became a councillor, even before that with Tini Boons, is it? Boons, yeah. Who was initially putting the proposal together. And again, it was a it was a hard thing to look in the crystal ball and know what to do and what not to do. But I think as a community, we were probably one of the most well engaged in the Rugby World Cup with the 100 days to go and half orange half times. And I'd like to take my hat off mainly to Karen. I can't pronounce her last name, though. Stockles. She was a key part in felicitating all those parties coming together, the communities that put on the Hātipi event or the Opataka, to the Māori fashion show at the Great Lakes Centre and the North against South rugby game on the Domain, right down to the fan zones. So, yeah, I know there was a lot of hard work put in by a lot of people. So, yeah, and I think out of all the Rugby World Cups, and I'm not just saying that because I live here in New Zealand, but a lot of the teams said it was one of the best hosted Rugby World Cups around. And we were quite fortunate, and I was talking to Alan Phillips last week to congratulate him on the Six Nations triumph that Wales had, and he said that right from the coming over here with the Rugby World Cup and their stay in Taupo, that the boys really enjoyed, and it was a really team building experience, doing the different events and the open trainings and that was, he said, part of the success of carrying on through to winning the Six Nations. So that meant a lot. So yeah, that's about all I've got to say. Just congratulations to everyone that helped.
Well, we're just I'm sorry, Councillor Kipper.
Just on 12, good to see that Council was therefore under budget for both financial years.
It's always a bonus to have that happen, and once again, hey, thanks to everybody at Rugby World Cup. A lot of hard work did go in. Councillor Henderson?
Firstly, I'd just like to say I think Mike did a great job organising all this, and the team worked very hard on it, and I'm sure there was great benefit to the district. But having read this report, and I read it 3 times, I have some concerns about how much of a clear view this really gives to what the benefit was to the district in dollar terms and how much we actually spent on it. The reason I say that is because I also got the report from the Hamilton City Council about their expenditure, and in contrast there's a lot more detail about the dollar figures in this report than there is here. Specifically, the figures related to economic impact benefit. Talks about the large in-kind contribution, and which is something that's been talked about before Council in successive reports that have come to us about this, but a dollar figure has never been put on it. Another issue is there's no financial summary with the report. For example, the Hamilton City Council has an entire page setting out the financial summary of the event. which appears to include the in-kind contributions as well. Also, with the recommendations by comparison, this report deals with each item specifically, whereas here the recommendations are very general. So what I would like minute is that, in my opinion, this has insufficient information to accurately assess what the costs and benefits of the exercise were to ratepayers. And just draw people's attention, because if somebody could explain this to me, I'd appreciate that. But if you go to page 12/12, third paragraph from the bottom under level of economic benefit and costs to the district. Perhaps I'm missing something, but that second paragraph there seems to me to be contradictory. At best it's confusing, but at worst it seems to be contradictory. So I just ask people to read that, and if people think that's clear, I'd be interested to hear, because I don't understand that.
Councillor Craig?
I don't want you to contradict Councillor Henderson's view, but there's a value for the district in goodwill, friendship, and all those other sort of things that we can't put a monetary value that came in it. And I, for one, believe that it got our district united so well in all its different aspects, and the turnout on those fan zones was just amazing. And I don't think you can put an economic value on that. And I don't think it's going to be hard to replicate that with any event in the future until we get another one. So while I can't agree with what you're saying, Councillor Henderson, I do think we have to factor that into this whole report, and it does mention it in places. Thank you.
Councillor Henderson?
Just to respond to Councillor Crate, I recognise that there's always intangible benefits to these events which you can't assess, and that's not really what I'm referring to in my comments here. But what I would ask is that people actually read what the Hamilton City Council report is on the same basically basis of evaluation of the success, and do a comparison as to how they have attempted to value some of the intangibles and how they've provided very clear reporting about the figures and the costs to ratepayers, as well as also significant effort put into trying to quantify the spend per visitor, nationalities, etc., etc. There's a lot more detail in there, and certainly a lot more clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would love to have some budget to be able to do this kind of an economic analysis that Hamilton has been able to do. I think Councillor Henderson is absolutely right. The Hamilton City Council have done a sterling job in terms of pulling that information together, and that would be something that I'm sure my team would absolutely love to be able to get their hands on and have that kind of ability to. Certainly we've got a lot of ability in the team, but having access to the budget to be able to do that sort of thing would be great. What we've done here is probably a first for us as a council in terms of doing this kind of evaluation, and it was done very much pulling on all available information that we could to be able to give you a picture and a bit of a steer for the future. So there will always be shortcomings in terms of the information that's in front of you, but I think it still gives you sufficient of a picture in terms of the value of some of the structures and processes that you put in place.
Councillor Kepper?
What I previously said, and in light of along with what Councillor Henderson has just said, it did concern me when I first looked at this article that there was no financial report.
You're not councillor. You were one anyway.
No, I
Ms.
know.
McLeod.
I've never been a councillor. I think councillors may recall that we've actually had several different tranches of financial information regarding how we've progressed in terms of Rugby World Cup. So one of the wrap-ups that was done for the Rugby World Cup committee was around what was spent and assessing the budget. Certainly we can come back with information about that.
Well, hang on, could I just...
But it has already been in front of
Could
council.
I just point out, though, Ms. McLeod, that at the last meeting of Rugby World Cup, when we wound it up, we had a full set of accounts there,
Yes.
where every dollar went, where it came from, where it went out for. It was approved by the committee, it came to council, it got accepted as being true and correct minutes, resolved on. Do you want them reproduced? They can be reproduced, but they're in those minutes, are they not?
They certainly are in those minutes, and they also were in the...
Councillor, if you get Councillor Henderson a copy of the minutes from the last Rugby World Cup committees, those financials are in there, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Councillor Nick Williams?
Yeah, well, I apologise because I must have seen those figures as well at one stage. Just looking at this, the first thing I want to refer back to on 12/12, that paragraph that Councillor Henderson referred to was the figure. So my question really is, first of all, my statement is like a huge congratulations and thank you to the Rugby World Cup team, and I think we all are unanimous in that. And not only what it did for our visitor industry, but also for our community. It was a fantastic generator of community pride, and I think all the events went off brilliantly and were really, really well organised. My question really is, I guess moving forward from this, we have to be very mindful and very careful about ratepayer spend when it comes to events like this. And what I would like to recommend or begin debate probably about not only the council cash contribution to an event like this, but I'm well aware, as all of you would be, that a considerable amount of council officers and some of it quite senior time went into this event, and and also resources of council venues and council resources went into this event. And we are operating, as Mr. Manhennett tells us, in the archaic cost centre regime still in local government. And I just wonder why some of those overheads haven't sort of been factored in.
She might answer what I was going to say.
One of the things that was done when the bids were actually put in for Rugby World Cup was that the in-kind contribution and any potential losses that we may have sustained in terms of income on our facilities was also factored in to the information that was presented originally for this project. Councillor Dana may have some things to add to that.
Yeah, I know that often I said that this is an opportunity once in every 30 years, but we do it for all events, give in-kind time through council staff, felicitate it, whether it's the Oceania Soccer, whether it's the Ironman and stuff like that. So there in any event that we have, and we promote ourselves as being events Taupo. If I had the budget of Hamilton City Council, and I have obviously, Mr. Henderson, I haven't read the evaluation report on the Rugby World Cup, but I know that they spent a lot of money on that. We've done all this in-house. It hasn't cost us any more to put out it, and it might be vague in some areas, but to the economic benefit, I endorse what Mr. Crate and Mr. Kipper has said. You know, we had the presentation from GGLT this afternoon, and the spikes in it, and you could put that down to grab it, you can put that down to the summer promotion, or you could put that down to what happened during the Rugby World Cup, and probably 4 or 5 other things. So yeah, I'm not defending it because I'm the chairman. I'm defending it because I believe that the 180,000 that we had for the budget to put on what we did for those 2 months over that period, I think not only the committee and the council staff and the organisation, but also the district was fully engaged and fully involved, and got tremendous not only economic benefit, but their own people enjoyed it. Local people enjoyed it. The district got involved into everything totally, and that's to me a community well-being.
Okay, hands up everywhere. Councillor Mincher.
Like Nicola, thanks Karen and Mike. You organised, that rugby was important, and I just want to reiterate the fact we hosted 3 of the best international teams in the world. It was fully part of our community, and you only have one figure in front of you, and the figure says we're coming under budget.
21 grand.
And so if we're coming under budget, and that's the most important thing. We're not sitting here debating the public overspend on the rugby. we budgeted, we came in under budget, and we put on a good show, and everyone included went away happy. So I think that's the most important issue, rather than what every dollar brought us back. That's too hard to analyse on our budgets. So
well done, world Mike. Stage 2. Councillor Henderson, then Councillor Williams.
So putting aside the economic impact benefit and assessing that and the relative costs of that for a moment, and also putting aside that no doubt there was a great benefit to the region and everyone had a good time, this is about transparency really at the end of the day. I'm not the one, in reply to Mayor Cooper's request to have the figures put to me, I'm asking on behalf of the public that the figures be put in the council meeting like this, which cost them no more money, okay, than it would cost us to do, and just lay the figures out. And as part of that, I would like an assessment, which is always an estimate, of what the in-kind contribution was of the council. That's what I request, and I'd like that minuted. Yeah. And again, I refer people back to 12/12, third paragraph from the bottom. If anyone can really make sense of that as a lay reader, good luck to them.
Councillor Downer.
Yeah, I'm not going to ping-pong back and forth, but I must reiterate that a lot of this information was given out at meetings, and if Councillor Henderson would like to turn up to some meetings, even during the Rugby World Cup, I don't think he turned up to one meeting during the Rugby World Cup with the Rugby World Cup committee, and there was lots of councillors that did, then he would be much more satisfied with information being fed out to the councillors.
Councillor Henderson.
Just to reply to that, Mike, firstly, I'm not on the Rugby World Cup committee, so I have no obligation to turn up to it. I read all the reports that have come to council. I'm assured that maybe I read them, but I'm sure that most people in the community don't. What they do is watch these meetings on webcam, possibly, and read the minutes from them, which is why I'm requesting that these figures be put before the council in a clear, transparent and understandable form, just like they've been done in this situation.
So are you moving that as a motion?
Yes.
That motion, which if I've read it right, is Councillor Henderson moves a motion. He wants another agenda item at the next council meeting, fully disclosing the inwards and the outwards of the $159,000 spent on promoting Taupo for Rugby World Cup 2011. Does that have a seconder?
That's slightly different than what I'm requesting.
You read your motion out, sir.
No, what I'm requesting is that a full set of accounts of the financial information for the expenditure for this event be put before council.
Does that have a seconder?
Available, don't we? We do have copies available.
Does that motion have a seconder? Without a seconder, it falls and fails.
Well,
no seconder?
Can I just ask Councillor Henderson, what, in addition to the figures we've already got, are you looking for?
Well, the figures, to my understanding, haven't been put before council, so they've been put before the Rugby World Cup. And this report that's before us here has one paragraph on the financials, which is totally confusing and doesn't set it out clearly at all.
Well,
hang on, Councillor. Could I just clarify through perhaps Mrs. Bazaglow or Mrs. Gilbert or Mrs. McLeod here, did the minutes of Rugby World Cup 2012 clearly explain the financial inwards and outwards of Rugby World Cup 2011? It did. They did. They came to council as a set of minutes, like we move at the beginning of this meeting.
All minutes come
and they were passed. I'm just trying to get clarity here. Is that right? Am I right? I'm right. Okay, so they have been to council. Now, we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Henderson.
This is a report evaluating the event, which has been put before council. How can you evaluate it when you have no laid out properly financial information like this? How can you truly evaluate that? And how can that be transparent for the public? That's my question to you all.
Well, I have a motion on the floor, which I have to let fall, or it has to have a seconder. Sorry, which either has to have a seconder or it fails. Now, have I got a seconder? Please, I'll ask one more time to Councillor Henderson's motion, which he has put on the floor. If there is no seconder, the motion falls. Anything further on Rugby World Cup 2012? I only have one thing further. My biggest regret with Rugby World Cup 2012 is that we didn't apply for a game. And in hindsight, I wished we had have, because I feel we probably would have got them. We undersold ourselves, unfortunately, when we started with Tinny and Mike, myself, and the other triennium. And we all said, let's apply to host one team. And I said, no, let's apply to host two teams. And we got 3, but we should have actually applied for a game as well. Hindsight's a precious asset, but I think well done to everybody. Management side of things headed by Karen Bazaglow down at the back of the room, and the Rugby World Cup Committee headed by Deputy Mike Downard. I personally support everything that was done and congratulate them. Ms McLeod, do you want to?
We have a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm getting that. So there is a suggested resolution. Oh, Councillor Williams.
Just to tidy up the end of that discussion, I just checked something out with Councillor Downard, and it's all quite clear to me now. But I agree with Councillor Henderson that paragraph on 12/12 I find confusing, and Councillor Downard has just explained it to me. That my question to him was, did all the council time involved in the amount shown, was that included? It appears it wasn't, and so moving on, I'm suggesting that maybe we do that, but just on this particular paragraph, if Councillor Dana could just explain to us what's the difference between the 159,000 and the 208,000. Yeah.
First of all, with the first comment, I don't believe that you can in-kind every event of council time, because
It's a massive undertaking, more than the cost of having an event like
Well,
a RUP,
just-
the ice skating rink.
Yeah,
Where do we
just
start?
everything.
Where do we stop?
You're looking at how many events.
Hang on, the motion fails, so that we're not regurgitating. Please
Well, I'm just
explain.
replying to
Yeah, but
that
just
first
please
comment.
explain the paragraph.
The second paragraph, the way that I understood it, was that our budget was 180. Okay, we came in at 159, but council spent approximately 208, but 49 of that was in kind.
From the Lotteries Commission or in kind from other people in kind. That's the Lotteries grant.
Revenue gained through the bars and stuff like
And
that.
just remembering on that final night, Gareth, your team or you organised or you had something to do with it, you organised a big bar downtown and you made how much out of that? Roughly, was it 20 grand or something? About 80. I remember reading the figure, so I'm not far off, 20 grand. So you're calling that in kind, aren't you? That's the comeback. You're not? That's income. Now, those figures were in those minutes of that meeting, weren't they?
Yeah. Thank you. That totally.
Now, I have a motion. No, sorry, not a motion. Sorry, that's toilet time. Where's that resolution gone? There's 2 or 3. I think the one that we should do is on page 2, 12/1, page 2. That Council adopt the Rugby World Cup 2011 evaluation report and note its recommendations for future consideration of its involvement in other events and projects. Move. Councillor Downard, second. Councillor Williams, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against?